today we had the great idea. So we've been talking for a while now about AI in non-profits and what it can do, and we still get a lot of pushback about, yes, okay, that sounds great, but it's difficult. So actually, I've kind of put Ben on the spot a little bit, and he really loved the brief. I said to him, look, I want you to create 3 or 4 apps that you think you could build within an hour that a non-profit would actually find quite useful. And then I cut his legs out from under him and said he wasn't allowed to prep for it at all. So we may go absolutely amazing and you see how easy everything is. It may be that it all goes wrong and horrible because Ben's deliberately not had any prep time on this one, because we want you to see how easy it is to use Copilot and Copilot Studio. So it's going to be interesting. Thank you for coming along on the journey, and I'm going to apologise in advance if it all goes wrong. I'm really hoping it doesn't. So who am I? My name's James. I'm the head of marketing here at FormusPro. Work quite closely with the Elevate team. You'll tend to speak to me if you do a lot of stuff, if you interact with us via email or online. But as I said, this webinar isn't about me. So Ben, you just want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ben, as James has mentioned. I'm a data architect at Formus, and so getting stuck into Copilot today.
Awesome introduction. Thanks, Ben. So today's agenda, quick introduction, which we've nearly done. The apps he's going to be building are querying multiple data sources, automating responses to emails, which is actually something, Ben, I'm going to be hitting you up after this because I'm really interested in having that on my Outlook as well, and scheduling sentiment analysis. We'll then do a quick Q&A session at the end. So before we get started, who are FormusPro and why are you listening to us? So we were actually founded back in 2012 with the ambition to better serve the non-profit sector. Our first client was Anthony Nolan, you may know them as the blood cancer charity. And at the time, I need to be careful how I say this, but our founder, who's still CEO today, Glenn Powell, wasn't happy with how a lot of non-profits were being treated by Microsoft partners. So there were deliberate partners going out after the non-profit sector and then not discounting anything. There was also a lot of Microsoft partners at the time that just ended up with a non-profit sort of client by mistake. And it wasn't really great for the partner, and it definitely wasn't great for the non-profit sector. So we went out deliberately to service the non-profit sector 14 years later. And to be honest with you, I think about 52% of our client base is now non-profit. So it's still a sector that we massively sort of like want to support. As you can see there's a lot of big names. So the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, Down Syndrome's Association, Little Princess Trust. There's also commercial partners as well. It helps to take commercial partners so we can afford to discount yourselves. But our love, and while a lot of clients sort of come and work with, well, a lot of consultants come work with us, is for the work that we do with the non-profit sector. So Microsoft Elevate obviously helped us arrange this. You probably contacted us through Microsoft Elevate. Just want to give them a quick thank you. Now, you may or may not know them as Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. They've recently rebranded. I have to say that soon. Stop saying that soon because it's a couple of months old now. They were the TSI team and they're part of Microsoft Philanthropy. The reason they've rebranded is they now look after the non-profit sector and education, what's known as K-12 and below, so everything that's not higher education, years 1 to 12, as it sounds. Their mission hasn't really changed. It's to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. I always quite like that tagline. I always wanted to steal it for FormusPro because it is a really good one, and actually it sort of folds well into our philosophy. They want to expand opportunities, earn trust, protect fundamental rights, and advance sustainability. And that's why they're now looking after education, because actually it's a really worthwhile goal. And a big focus they have, to be honest, pretty much at the moment, their only focus is AI. Are we building machines to replace people, or are we building machines to help people thrive? And we've done several sort of webinars on the ethics of AI, and I encourage you to jump onto our YouTube and have a look at those. Basically, Elevate want to bring the power of AI to social impact organizations and educational institutions everywhere. And actually, as a non-profit, you may be aware you get massive discounts on, or sometimes even free, the Microsoft technology And if you weren't aware of that, please get in touch with us afterwards and we can run you through those discounts, because to be honest, some of our commercial clients would cut their right arm off to have access to the discounts you all get. They've got a 4 billion global donation commitment, so they want to donate over 4 billion in cash and technology over the next 5 years, 20 million AI credentials by 2027, and they're looking to launch the AI Economy Institute. These slides are all going to get sent out to you, so you're not here to hear about Elevate, so we'll move on. But by 2030, 50% of the global workforce is going to need new digital skills, and that's why people like FormusPro partner with Elevate to do these webinars. And with that, I'm going to shut up and sit quietly for the next hour.
Yeah, so I'd like to start by thanking James for this excellent opportunity of making a complete fool of myself. But
you're welcome.
So to actually start, I will share my screen and show you. I've spun up a bit of data. I've had a few ideas, but we're going to jump in and start making the agents. So the first thing I thought of doing is I'm going to make something which I'm going to call something like income querier. My idea was that you might find other application for this. It's probably something you've seen versions of before. It's a bit like an FAQ bot, but what it's going to do is find the same data in various different places. So I've got, first of all,
I'm going to quickly jump in. I'm going to do that a lot and just try and deliberately throw you off your stride. Just so everyone's aware, Copilot, I'm sure you all know, is Microsoft's AI, what you would sort of think of as ChatGPT. It's very much works same as ChatGPT, but they also have Copilot Studio, which is both the same and slightly different, where you build agents, or GPTs, as they ChatGPT call them. And this is the bots that Ben is sort of discussing now, and again, you get discounted non-profit licensing on those, and come and speak to us about them afterwards. Just so you're aware, Copilot and Copilot Studio are the same thing, they're just slightly different.
So this is our in-house not-for-profit system, and so as you've probably seen this, a lot of you, this is dynamics. Here I've got a list of incomes. They could be in the future, they could be in the past. They might be in the future because it's a regular income we've already generated. It's a lot of test data. As you can see, I actually worked on the system myself. Hence the content name Ben Test. We've also got a SharePoint site, and in there I've got income records. So I've got some letters that people might have sent in. This does rely on it being scanned in PDF, obviously a very basic letter because I was busy, but this person sent us £500 by cheque, and this person has sent us £200 by cheque. I appreciate this might work for you, some letters being sent out by PDF on another system, something along those lines. And I'm also at random income data, which is some AI generated data which doesn't actually match the columns we've got in Dataverse. I just asked AI to spin me up a load of random data, and this is what I got. I am going to have to caveat Excel in a moment, but I'll come to explain that. So if I go over here and I've got this, so I go into, this is the Copilot Studio. So you've got your menu, home on the left-hand side, create, agents, once in the agents already created, flows and tools I'll come to later, but that's just a library of them. We've got a few out of the box things here. These are all quite new. You can see they're in preview, and actually there's a lot of new functionality recently added to Copilot. So I'm not going to cover everything because I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what everything does because I've only just seen some of it. But if we go in and press create, that's a good start. It's done nothing. Oh, it's a new agent. That's why I was already on the create page. And you can just describe your bot in natural language. We could sit here and write prompts and go for a while and go through that. I'm not going to do that because I just want to show you actually what's behind it. So if you do write a prompt, you might get some of this filled in for you, and you could go in and go, well, that's actually not what I want. And so you'll understand hopefully what this is.
So just to clarify, Ben, you're obviously going to be slightly more techie than most people on the call. I understand you're going to be using a bit of flows and a bit of code just to make your life easy because it's what it's used to. If you're not, you can absolutely just keep refining the natural language prompt. Is that correct?
Yeah. Later on, this one I'm hoping is quite natural, for want of a better phrase. I've tried to build it up gradually. So we're going from very simple to something you might go, what? But actually, hopefully come off the call and think, actually, you know what, I can try that. So
brilliant.
So I'm going to call this my income. So I'm going to call it a donation finder. So I need to describe my agent. So this is quite important. I'm going to say this is an agent that finds donations in multiple sources. Sorry, my typing will get on the end. And I'm going to fill in the instructions in a moment, and I'm just going to go and create this. So this is going to be internal. So the important thing here is there's a setting that if you wanted to expose this to on a website, for example, you could host it on your website. There's a bit of code you can snip and send to a developer, and they could put it in a website for you. There is a setting here which says security is going to ask for authentication. For some reason, I can't select it. Oh, it's because it's not quite finished up. In here, there is a setting that says, do you want this to be public or do you want it to be M365 authenticated? What this means, because I'm setting it, just leaving it authenticated, because these are authenticated and it's not playing ball with me, I'm just going to leave it at that. If there's any data this queries that the end user isn't supposed to be able to see, then it won't return it, basically. So you're perfectly safe using this, and if it gets into the wrong hands, they won't be able to find any data from it. Still loading. The first thing I'm going to do actually is add some knowledge. So the first bit of knowledge I'm going to add is I'm going to say Dataverse. So this is the database that Dynamics is based on. It's the simplest way of putting it. There's a lot more to it, but the table we just saw, if I type income in and add that to the agent, then I'm going to also add in my SharePoint site, like so. So if I click SharePoint here, and I can just add an entire site by typing in the URL that I just copied out of here. Add that. I can leave that the same, and I'm going to say this knowledge source provides information when a user queries income and donation record. So SharePoint, and actually I want to look at this more. Once you set them up, you have a few more options you can use. So in the SharePoint, you've got some advanced settings, and essentially you can say, I don't want to find it if it's this author or this title, or maybe you want to cut out data before a certain date. So you can change this to any, or don't include this information essentially. So you've got quite basic settings in there. Within Dataverse, you've got a little bit more that you can look at. So we've got preview of the data, so we can see a not very well presented table that I was looking at before. And I'm just going to go down, and on amount, I can add a synonym. So I'm going to say that I want this to be donation amount and also contribution amount. Oh. Obviously, I know this data well, but Copilot might need a little bit of help. You could put a description in there if you want to. I'm going to actually put the description down here. Income date, I'm going to say this is the date. Oops. Distribution donation has been made or will be made. And in the glossary, this won't be very useful in this data, but you might have a lot of free text potentially. So someone might be writing something about NFPs, and we want to tell Copilot that means not for profit. So that if it does find some data with that in, it will understand what it means. So that's it. I've set up my two data sources. I'm going to save that. And go back to my overview. And now what I need to do is write my instructions. And I have been having a little bit of a think about some prompts earlier. So
you cheated.
I know, I'm sorry. But it's going to save time, James, because I was thinking I was going to spend ages typing out in front of everybody otherwise. So
that's fair.
We're going to get more in. We're going to get more in. So to explain what I've done here, if it loads up. find income donations or contributions from the name requested by the user. Make sure to search in all knowledge sources. So I said, a name requested by the user is a good idea to make things as specific as possible, so it knows it's got one job. If you want things to have multiple jobs, you can add multiple agents in. Search in the AI demo site first. Make sure you search in all file types, including Excel. Searching Excel using the name column. If no donations are found in the AI demo site, check the income table knowledge source. So basically, you're going to check SharePoint first and then check Dataverse, and then provide information about all the data required by user using British Sterling and British date formatting. So the reason I've been specified this about Excel is that actually Excel is the kind of data that AI isn't very good at interrogating, but in this use case, it might be useful. So I'll explain why I think it might be useful. But I would say if you're doing this in your production environment, you'd want to do a bit more work up front before you actually use Excel, which I won't go into today because it just gets a bit more complicated and would take too long. So you've noticed, well, I've got, hello, I'm a donation finder, a virtual assistant, which to be honest is just a bit naff, really. So we're going to go over here to system. Yep.
It's my apologies. I was joking about throwing you off your stride. I don't actually want to. Your custom instructions that you've just put in, as you paste them into Copilot Studio, could you also paste them into the chat?
But yeah, actually prompting is something that it takes a bit of practice. So I'm hoping you get something out of that. That's the main thing you get out of this. That's useful. So, okay, so I'm going to go to my conversation start, and I'm going to say, let me know which customer you'd like to. I'm going to hopefully save that. It's always the way, isn't it? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to refresh that. So you might want to change this. Because when people are using the bot over time, they'll lose the context of first starting, but it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to say Ben test. Moment of truth.
It's doing something. That's all good.
So it does tell you when you're testing here that it's looking in the SharePoint location and the Dataverse table, which is good because that's what I asked it to do. Okay, so we found some data here for Ben test. There's a lot, and I know there's a lot. And if I click on here, we'll open up the table I was looking at previously. Now I'm going to say, what about Jeff Edwards? Because Jeff Edwards has rung in. I can't find the data anywhere. This is my idea, possibly. And I've got all these data sources hooked up. And this is where this works. I think this is really useful. So
didn't like that if.
There we go. So it's looked in a lot of places, actually. There's another Jeff Edwards there. Okay, so I should probably own up Jeff's my cat. So he's probably quite a lot of data put in this system somewhere. But if I click on this one, you'll see the letter that's come in. So someone could come in, you found this letter in the document management system. So now, if we go to my random data, so we've got Alexa Walker, and this is the thing that it might work, in which case it's going to save you some time. In the scenario I'm thinking of, if someone's insistent, they've sent something in and you can't find it, you might have to go and check, but it also might just save you time. If you want reports generated off spreadsheets, we need to do a bit more work, basically, like done here. Oh, it's thinking though. There we go. So what is done here, which is useful because what I would advise someone to do if this, it's been quite slow. It's normally instantaneous. But what it's done is it directed me to the document. So it said, yeah, go and have a look in this document. And that means there might be something you need to update in there to say donation received, etc. And you can move that on. You might be able to move on a process. So that's my first bot. And what you can then do, if I go to channels, and I saw one of the question pop up about this actually. If I go to Teams and Microsoft 365 right, you can read it. I can't talk anymore. I'm going to untick that. I'm going to say add channel, publish. And in a moment, what we'll be able to do is we can choose a link, means you can share it with anybody, or you can download it as a zip file. And so essentially what I'd do if you were doing this, I'd just say availability options. I'd copy this link. I'd send it to anyone I think I find useful. They can add it. It basically adds it into their teams, and it's exactly the same experience I've just shown you, meaning that essentially you can be in teams and you can find all these documents and all this data. So that's the first one. I hope that's been useful, and that is the simplest one. So what we've done there is we just added a knowledge source and essentially queried multiple knowledge sources from the same place. So
that actually looked quite simple and easy as well.
Thanks. I'm glad. And it worked. So, all in all.
Oh, do the users all need Copilot licenses to use the app, Ben, or just the Copilot Studio licenses for the tech people?
I believe it's just for the tech people. And if you have a license within your tenant, it improves the search experience. I'd have to check exactly how that works.
And there was another question. I'm just going to. Could the knowledge source be our CRM?
Yes. So if you're, I'll show you actually what the knowledge sources are.
Now, Dave, you distracted you, not me.
It's okay. We can be distracted for a couple of minutes and then I'll move on. But we may as well just answer some questions while it's relevant. So if I say add knowledge, the source I've used is Dataverse, which is Dynamic CRM, or was. But then there are some more advanced things. So we've got these as well. So I guess my answer is it depends what your database is say centered on. You've got Azure SQL too. So potentially that's going to have some same connectivity. It depends. And so we've got Salesforce. There we go.
What?
Can it include MongoDB? I'm going to say not at the moment because it doesn't tell me, but there are some Azure things in here. So I think what you'd have to do is move. I'm going to say not without some work because
I
I'm
bet
not
we could
100%
build an
sure.
integration for it though.
Yeah, we'd have to. Just because a good way. Another way. This is the thing. I'm trying to avoid integrations here, but it is something that's possible. But it might need a bit more thought.
Yeah. We've also had a couple of questions on the cost. Have you got those figures to hand, or do you want me to run them through, Ben?
I've got something about credits.
Yeah. So I think correct me if I'm wrong, because my information might be a few months old, but I think Copilot Studio is around $200 a month, but non-profits get that discounted down to, I think, I'd have to double check that, but I'm sure there's a non-profit discount on that I'd have to go and look up for you. Sorry, Ben, I'll let you carry on now.
That's okay. I think I'm going to continue. If there's any more questions, please drop them in the chat and I will see if I can answer them afterwards.
Just created, could this be called a tool and not an agent because of its simplicity, or are they the same thing?
It's the same thing. So everything I'm doing is an agent, but you can call it whatever you like. I've actually had to get.
Can we call it Jeff?
I've had. Yeah, please do. He might get a bit confused. He's in the other room. I'd love to say he recognised his name would run in, but he wouldn't. But you could do, yes, James. I've had to get out of the habit of calling them bots because they're so similar to the Power Virtual Agents we used to have, and it's kind of extrapolated on top of that. So call it whatever you like. Right. So the next one is going to be I'm going to call it auto email FAQ response, which is just an awful name, but that is where I've got to today. So I'm going to say you're an agent. So describe who they are to them. You're an agent working for FormusPro, and you are going to use the attached knowledge to respond to email.
Thanks, Marius. I was convinced it was around $50, but I didn't want to. Somebody's just dropped in the chat the non-profit discount. So from 200, it's discounted down to 50. I was convinced that's what it was, but I didn't want to say it live unless it wasn't. This all being the case, it may change as much as, and if you're watching this 6 months from now, but whilst it's live, I'm pretty sure the discounts for registered non-profits should take that $200 cost down to 50. But again, I'll confirm this after the call for you. And there's a question from somebody, Ben, do you need a Copilot Studio license if you have a Copilot license?
Yeah, it's a different thing. There's different grades, and I can't remember exactly. There's Copilot Lite, and there's Agent Builder, and
yeah,
I'll be honest, they changed it so much.
So yeah, some of the packages will have Studio in, some of them won't. And to be honest, it's talking to Microsoft Direct or to somebody like FormusPro to actually figure out exactly what you need. It is incredibly easy to spend a fortune on licensing that you don't need or don't use. So it's always worth speaking to somebody before you commit to them all.
Speak to someone, and also whatever, it sounds a cop out, but whatever the most recent documentation is going to be probably more accurate than what comes off the top of my head, because it changes all the time. And I went to a talk recently about it in London, and there was a whole load of new stuff that the licensing had changed. So it's something that's worth checking.
There's a reason licensing is known as the dark art.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is, again, I have prepared a prompt, James, for this. So I'm going to save that, and I will explain it shortly, because what I need to do first is I've got a knowledge base that I need to add. So this, I'm going to just move my screen over here, actually, because I'm going to dig down into SharePoint to a specific location. So what I've done here is gone straight to this is actually our Formus FAQ doc, which is open here. This knowledge source provides, I'm going to say to provide answers to frequently. Do you know what? I'm going to just add that. I've no idea why the box is so small there, because if you go in here now and edit, and say that. So I need to add what are called some, I was going to say what are called some actions. They're not anymore. They're now called tools. So if I go in here, and there you go, there's a case in point. You can call it whatever you like, because someone will change their mind. So what I could do is I could search for send an email. Actually, I'm going to do that to show you. And I can't spell email. And I'm going to choose this one. And I'm going to say add and configure, and then we can see all the options that are available. So this is just kind of introducing some more components at the moment. I'll explain exactly what I'm doing in a second. So I've got send an email, and down here I've got additional details. So this is an important one here. So ask the end user before running. So the end user is going to be whoever the email is sent to in this case. I could set it as me, but then they'd be logging in as me, and I don't want to do that, basically. I could provide some other credentials. If you put yes, we then got a whole other, we can display messages to the user saying, someone tried to send this email. Do you want to do it? Do you want to go ahead with it? We've also got responses down here, which is the same thing. So when the action's completed, then it will respond to whoever's accepted it. I'm going to dynamically let it complete to the subject and the body, not dynamic, because otherwise what's the point? I could code it all in, but I don't want to do that. But I'm going to say no here, because I want it to respond immediately. This is called send an email deliberately, and I'll explain why in a second. Okay, so if I go back to my overview, and I'm going to add another action, or another tool, I should say. And it's going to go straight to Office 365 Outlook here, and you can see all the things you've got available to you. So you've got a whole range of things you can do with Outlook, essentially. But I'm going to say mark as read, or unread. I'm going to add and configure that.
Then the frequently asked question file that you linked, is it a live document that's constantly updated or fixed as of a certain date?
So this is live, and it's an interesting question, actually, because I've tried doing that with external bots. I couldn't get it to work because you have to upload them to Copilot and then change them there. But this is live and reads straight from SharePoint. So it makes a call at the point when you use the bot, gets the data and brings it back. So whatever's there at the time is going to be what the answer is.
Excellent.
Okay, so mark as read. This is just going to do exactly what it says on the tin. It's going to mark, if it responds to my email, I'll show you again in a second, it's going to mark it as read. So actually, this is probably a good time to go through the prompt that I've written. So when you receive a question, identify whether there's an appropriate answer in the knowledge base, which is this. So this is written by James and other people in the marketing team. And I think some of the questions are live on the website and some aren't. So you might
They're
get
all
some
being
insight.
they're currently being added to the website as we speak. I had to update the entire. I think there's about 80,000 words on there that I wrote all myself.
So basically what I've told it to do is belts and braces, be careful. If there's an appropriate answer, send an email in response, thanking the customer for getting in touch. In a separate paragraph, copy the full content of the answer you found in the knowledge source without changing any words. You can tell from this how specific that is that it can decide to update things. So let's see how this goes. But do not respond if you can't find an appropriate answer. So the idea is when the email comes in, it will respond unless, and if it will mark it as read if it does. So when you come in the morning, you'll be able to see your emails have come in, they're marked as read, and you'll have a sent item in your outbox, or sent items as it should be called. I think the ideal scenario for this is a general inquiries address. So you get 100 emails overnight. Hopefully, half of them have been answered. So it just saves you half the time in the morning responding to everybody. And
then I can see some people being uncomfortable with AI and that. Presumably, the app could also have or the agent or the Jeff could have an extra step added into it so that a response could be waiting for you to approve. So it's just a tick box, yep, send, yep, send. So it has the response, but you get to manually check it first.
Yeah. So that was the setting in here. So if you change this to yes, then it's the part where you can put something in to say someone's trying to send this message on your behalf. Are you happy to send it out? So
yeah, it's just because I know some people are more and less comfortable with AI, so some people may still want that manual control.
That's cool. So where was I? Okay, overview. So because I've said send an email here, it knows to use that action I've set up. And also it says if you respond, mark the email as read, which is here. There's this line here, which I'm going to explain in a moment. So what I'm going to do is going to find how does email tracking? That's quite a relevant one. Let's try this one. I mean, this is a very specific question. They're probably going to be more generic questions like, do you provide training, which I know are in there, but just for the point of the demo, let's see
While
what
that's
happens.
while that's loading, a couple of questions for you. Do you structure instructions for agents like this in if and else commands?
I guess you could do because I kind of keep it a bit more natural, but I have done it if else because I've said if you find the appropriate answer, do this, otherwise do this. Sorry, I need to do something. But what I generally try and do is give it a context, then give it a purpose, and then tell it how to do it is kind of the way to go ahead.
And can this email response type function also be used in Teams channels?
Yeah, so we could, do you know what? I haven't tried that, but I don't see why you couldn't set it up. So you could, right, so this would be a bot in a Teams channel instead of sending an email.
I presume that's what the question means, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop interrupting him because it looks like it's going slightly wrong. So I'm going to give you a second.
I don't know why ideas malform.
So as for a yes, the answer to that is yes. Can you add instructions to also CC in another email? Is yeah. It's just adding another step to the pilot, the agent as you're building it. And Justin, I couldn't agree more. Talk to the AA like you're delegating to a person. So the if and else commands, absolutely, you can do it like that. But any AI, GPT, Gemini, or Copilot is great at figuring out your intent. So just speak to it to like a normal person. When I'm teaching prompting, I tend to say to people, speak to it like it's a normal person, but also speak to it like it's a really, really pedantic 5-year-old. So it will try and do its best for you, but be as specific as you can, which is why you saw some of Ben's sort of stuff saying, do this. If you don't know, don't make something up. Just don't respond at all.
I'm going to see what happens here. actually, I can explain this. If this goes wrong, I'm going to move on and try and get it to work another way. But you can see my response says, when it was there, thank you for getting in touch. And you've got these P in here and more down here. So this, if anyone doesn't know, are tags used in HTML, which is the language that structures what you see on websites and what you see in emails. So if I go back to my prompt, and this is a bit of a weird thing to have to write, but this is what the bot understood. Format the response with HTML tags to make it readable, but do not change any wording. That was put in frustration at some point after I made it work, put the tags in, and it decided to change what it sent out. But what that means is those tags are there. So when it sends it to an email client, it's going to see it and it's going to understand it and structure it correctly. One thing I forgot to do as I was, no, it's fine. I'm going to do that in a second. I'm going to add a trigger. So this is going to say, right, I need to have a look whenever an email is arriving. So I've got when a new email arrives here. You could search for it and say next. And it's signed me in. This might have been the problem I was having actually, is that it hadn't signed me in. So I'm going to say 2, and this is going to make it just to me so that this doesn't just hit everybody in the whole organization. And what I've also done is, sorry, Google, set up an email account, which I'm not going to use for anything else. And it's just going to be, I'm going to put this as from, because obviously I want to keep this so it's all contained. That's the word I'm looking for. And that's all I'm going to do with the create trigger. You could configure it to choose which folder you want. You can change the importance. So you might want to only do it with high importance stuff. So you get an instant response out saying, thanks for contacting me. I'll be in touch as soon as possible, that kind of thing. Which I guess you wouldn't want to do to a high importance email, but I'm trying to think here about what we could do. Right. So I've got a trigger now set up. And if I choose the right email, which is that one, isn't it? And say compose, I'm going to say subject question. I'm going to say, hi, Ben, and going to find one of James's lovely questions.
Oh, he knows how to flatter me.
That was an attempt at sincerity for once. But
I know, and I appreciate it. I'm insincere enough to appreciate and shallow enough to want that. I don't mind the praise is fake, Ben, as long as it's coming my way.
Okay. I'm going to say regards. Oh, and it's in bold now. I'm going to say Jeff, just the avoidance of doubt that this was in any way set up to respond. We've seen how it's been set up. So that's been sent. Now, what I need to do, I will get an email shortly. This step isn't 100% necessary. Status cancelled. Cancelled because it couldn't log in. So that was me testing before. Now, if I go to my trigger and choose test trigger, there we go. That's me emailing myself. Start testing. Okay, I was worried this might happen. What's happened is I've sent so many random emails to myself that it's decided that it doesn't want to respond. And I've broken the rules of responsible AI. This shouldn't happen in a live environment. It's simply because I've spent so much time playing around with Copilot, essentially.
Can we have a look at some of the other responses that actually did work, maybe?
Yeah. So I'll show you some other stuff that I've done. So if I find my sent items.
And if this is all looking terribly complicated to people, it actually is very straightforward. That's the whole point of this. As you can see, Ben's built this almost instantly. But if you're not sure, get in touch and we can sort of just help you through this as well. So we're here to help. But yeah, it's also just one that you need to, you can figure out yourself quite easily.
It's a shame that it's decided to tell me that I'm irresponsible using AI. Which is ironic, really.
How dare you? You called everything Jeff personally.
Well, I called myself Benj yesterday to try and check I wasn't just prompting it. So this is something that it sent out to me with that prompt that I used. So I'm not sure. That is actually
that's
your
a good
answer,
response.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that's your answer, James.
It is. Yeah, that's me.
So that's the kind of thing what happen if you send something it can't find, it just won't respond. So you'll respond manually. And that's it, essentially. That's it set up. I've published it, obviously, because it was trying to respond and telling me that I was using inappropriate. Or was that was just it testing the trigger, wasn't it? But I think it's just going to do the same. Sorry, ignore this screen. I'm going to publish that and we can come back to it and see if it works later. because I've got 15 minutes now. I want to show you the next one. So my last one is something I have spun up to potentially look at sentiment analysis. So I asked AI to give me some data. I said, can you please give me some random survey responses? This is just some data I've mocked up in my own environment. You'll probably recognize this if you ever use customer voice, but it's not actually customer voice. It's something I've done. If you ask for random data, just to quickly, you get this. So don't ask for random data. If you then say, all right, fair enough, can I have it in plain English? You get this, which I'll give you a quick read of.
Later defense Republican family professor, different really, specific social network. The pedantic 5-year-old AI did exactly what you told it to do, Ben.
So I said, can you respond as if you're responding to a survey from university? It's cheated a little bit because it's given itself keywords at the beginning of everything. So it knows what the sentiment's going to be already. But for the purposes of this, it doesn't matter. We can assume it will be able to analyze sentiment. And I think this is really good because it's quicker than a human being doing it. We'd be there for days just going, oh, what does this person think? And is that relevant? And should we think about that? And actually, I've jumped straight into the agent here, and I might not need to do that, but I can explain why in a second. So I'm going to call this sentiment analyzer. Analyzes.
You're terrible at naming things, by the way. I'd have called this Psychic Jeff.
Well, this is the developer in me, James.
It's very descriptive.
Analyzes sentiment of survey responses. Originally, what I was going to do with this is you could call it from a Teams channel and it would create a spreadsheet for you and then build the link to the spreadsheet and send it back to the Teams channel. That gets complicated. So this is a slightly fined version. Now, I'm going to jump straight in and go to tools. And actually, I didn't necessarily need to do this. I could have gone straight to flows. And I'm going to choose new tool because we're going to build a custom tool. And this is where it's going to get a little bit more complicated, but I'm hoping that it's just a few components and we can follow it through. So I'm going to
Great question in the chat, sorry. Apologies, Ben. Can you link this to a Microsoft form response so no need to create the data?
Yeah, this is essentially me mocking up the data from a form response. So if you get a survey question response in, you can get all that data. I'll cover a bit of caveat for that in a second, and create a response. So you definitely can. That is exactly what this is for, basically. So if I say run a prompt, I'm going to create a new custom prompt, and for some reason it does that every time. Just open the window. Come on. I'm going to call this, sorry, James, get sentiment. Now get data from Dataverse. It's short time, so it's going to be quick here. Survey response is something like that. And this is where I'm glad that I've taught some prompts. So these are my instructions. So I've got response input. So you can either right click or you can / in here and then go to Dataverse and survey responses. And then I'm going to choose response. And it does ask at this point, do you want to filter? You could, in theory, and I need to work something out because I think it would be useful, and I'll explain why in a second, filter by date so that you're filtering this before you get to this point. I'll explain why in a second. So we're going to also add in the date. Oh. And then from here, we've got, oh, yeah, add it, go on. I'm going to say compile a report on October. So I'm racing through this slightly because I'm just kind of aware of time. Close. So perform sentiment analysis and identify trends on the response column. Copy the response and survey data columns in the survey response using the same order of columns. So copy the data I've got, format the data as that in UK format, add a column for trends and add a column for sentiment, excellent, good, satisfactory, bad, or awful. Now in here, this is what I was talking about, filtering data up front and how we have to do a bit more work if we're going to make this work on a large data set. I can have up to 1,000 rows. I'm going to try 100 and hope it actually finds things. It's going to filter through a whole year's worth of data, just to save a little bit of time, essentially. And the other thing I want to do is have an output format called JSON. Don't worry about this. Just select it and it will work magic for you. I'm going to test that now. And while this is work going on, any developers out there, this is going to produce a JSON essentially. And this means we can read it in the next step and interpret it and turn it into something lovely for us.
There was a comment that technically you can have Power Automate save individual emails into a specific OneDrive or SharePoint folder and give the Copilot access to that as a knowledge source for all future queries.
Okay.
It's a great point. Doing it this way is a little bit more granular, but it means you don't need the Power Automate license as well. And you can be slightly less techy to do it.
Okay. So my input is, so I'm just going to carry on here. Try and get through this. Oh, my input was some text. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to leave that called text, but you could change it to user question or something like that. That means dynamic content. I'm just going to choose text. So we're feeding whatever the request is into this. That goes and gets data. Next, we're going to run another prompt. And we're going to start another new custom prompt. And this time it's opened it up straight away, which is very kind of it. So I'm going to call this write sentiment data analysis to Excel document. Okay, so redefined questions. So create an Excel file, including all the values found in the sentiment analysis data. Inputs, sentiment analysis data. You probably know what's coming next. It's going to be text. And this is going to be some sample data, which is going to be the same as what we've just run essentially in the last one. Something I've had from previous goes. So if I put that in and say clause, order columns like that. Okay, so just telling how to order the column. So when you first do this, leave this on text and test. And it's okay. So it's come out with some weird things. If I look at document, I was expecting it to have created an Excel. Oh, I know what I need to do. I forgot. You know when I said it will work magic for you? Put this up to 100 there. It won't unless you turn this enable code interpreter on. And that is the thing that says that thing that it looks like a load of gobbledygook is actually going to do something. So I'm going to test. Any questions? It'll be a minute or so, I would imagine.
Somebody's just asked for one. For the nature of prompts, is it best if they suit business needs with technical requirements? Again, I think probably you better just off with natural language. But when it comes to prompting, assuming I'm reading the question right, it's much better to just, I tend to go with a format called GCSE. Ben, I don't know if you use that one or a different one, which is goal, source, context, and expectations. So actually, if you tell the Copilot or the AI your goal, what you actually want to achieve, give it the context, so who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it, sources, so where it should go looking for data, and then what the expectations are for it afterwards. You can probably skip a lot of the technical requirements and they'll just do it for you.
Great.
Somebody actually else uses RICE, which I've not heard of before, RICE, so I've got a bit of homework to do after this one. I always like learning something new, though. Every day's a learning day.
Right. So my input to what I've just written, you may have seen what James is speaking. We've generated an Excel file, which is there. and my input is the text from the last one, because that is still defined as text according to the prompts. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create file, or a file, I think. Yep. So I've got a place in my OneDrive. I want to save this. Obviously, you can make this somewhere shared. If you want, you can put it into SharePoint if you want. I'm just kind of trying to show you the various things we've got. So file name, you need a formula. But actually, if I go here, I can say, I'm going to say name XLSX file. That's so it knows it's going to put that as a suffix with the prefix of sentiment analysis and the current month. What I should have said as well is while you're doing this, keep going through and testing, but just I'm aware of time slightly and we're nearly there. So I'm going to accept that. And you'll see why I'm only concerned about the month in a second when I finish. And there's one more thing, and this is something that you will see when you run this, you'll get a response and you'll get a JSON, and it's a techie thing. It's something you can probably get in a prompt, but I've got this sometime when I've done it previously. So I'm just going to add that in, and all that's going to do is grab the data and make a file for me. So I'm going to just get rid of that. I'm going to save a draft. I'm going to publish. Okay. Okay, yeah, right, okay. What you need to do is make sure you name your steps the right thing. So that needs to be called create Excel file with the formula I've just used. Don't worry too much if this is kind of being complicated. It's just some components put together. It takes a little bit of getting used to. But I'm hoping is so you can see how easy this could be. Okay, go back to agent. Oh, not what I meant to do.
While that's doing that, Ben, it's a small thing, but instead of exporting to an XLSX file, could it be CSV?
Yeah, why not? Absolutely.
I love Ben as a developer. Yep, sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I know that sounded a bit offhand, but absolutely, yeah. Because whatever you put as the suffix, prefix, suffix, I'm losing the ability to think about English now. That's what's going to put on the end, and that's kind of kind of file it will create for you. So if I test this now, I'm going to test it manually. I'm going to say create a report from October 2025 to today. See what happens. So the idea behind this, instead of sending this when someone requests it, I'm going to change the top step to say schedule this on the first of month every month. So every month. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. For some reason, this step here hasn't worked correctly. I think I might have to just pause it there because we're at the end now, but that was very close to working. What's going to happen? So the idea is the very last step. Once I've tested that and I've got it in the folder that I've chosen to save it in, we're going to just delete that and we're going to say recurrence. And then we can set that to be every month. I can set that start date to be November. And then every month we're going to get this, which is a report of all the trends. It's a good way of doing this, isn't there? So you've got the answer, you've got the date, you've got the trend, you've got the sentiment, and then you'll get that every month in that folder and people can just go in and access it, basically. And that's it. Thanks for listening. I'm going to go for a lie down now.
I am going to say put Ben under a lot of pressure with this one. So 3 demos in less than an hour was a lot of work, but fair play to him. 2 out of 3 is absolutely brilliant, and I reckon with just another minute or two, Ben, you could have figured out that last third one.
Yeah, that's a kind of thing where I've said this is something I've worked out. I've clearly done that before, and I've copied the code from something else, and it's got quite the same. But
if you want to reach out to myself, there's my QR code. If you want to reach out to Ben, he loves using LinkedIn. I'm sure he will appreciate you all reaching out to him, or you can just contact FormusPro directly there. This is the bit where everyone awkwardly now takes out their phones and points them at their own laptop. We'll just hold there a second.
Just a note. So I'm going to drop these prompts into the chat. Is everyone going to be able to see that after the call, James?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
We'll also send them all. If you put them in the chat, I've got access to them, and I'll make sure they go out with a follow-up email and the recording of the video. And yeah, just thank you from me. Thank you from the FormusPro team. I'm sure it's a thank you for Ben, just putting words in your mouth. If you want to sign up for our next webinar, that's the QR code there. That one is going to be in a month's time, and it's going to be about scaling AI. So we talk a lot about starting small, actually getting from that small and building momentum to actually scaling it in a useful and ROI driving way can be difficult, and that's going to be the topic of the next webinar. So please send the QR code and sign up there. If not, speak to you all soon. And again, if you want any help with any of this, please reach out. Thank you from me.
Thanks.